All right, viewers, thanks for tuning in. Looking at the daily space weather once again, as we usually do most days at this time. You see a coronal mass ejection. We're going to be talking about Alpha Orionis, as well as Nova Cygni 1992. First, let's talk about the coronal mass ejection. It is not Earth-facing. It is detected from stereo A's coronagraph. And there you see that image. You see the coronal mass ejection facing the opposite direction from the Earth. It's a significantly large coronal mass ejection there, as we do see it on the LASCO C2 as well. We'll show you in a minute, and then we're going to start looking at the sun. There's the LASCO C2, complete with date stamps. And you can see on the western side here, you can see a bunch of mainly solar protons being blasted out there into the interplanetary system. And let's look at the sun itself. Again, that's not an Earth-facing coronal mass ejection, folks. We apologize if we've clickbaited you into watching our video, as we try to avoid clickbait largely on the channel. Let's look at 9 hours and 15 minutes of the local yellow dwarf here in 304 angstroms. Some large filaments here in the northeast region. And let's look at the south. I'll shrink this down one notch so you can see date stamps. Now we're going to look at 94 angstroms after this. That active region moving into a setting position there. No sunspots and really weak solar activity. We saw a small uptick yesterday, and we're back down to around 300 kilometers per second for the solar wind. Here's the 94 angstroms view. Coronal holes north of that active region. And here's the north in 94 angstroms. And there's the full view at 94 angstroms. Again, that's 9 hours and 15 minutes on New Year's Eve. By the way, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance, folks. If you haven't checked out smAsho yet, please do. And then come down here, click on the forum, and set yourself up a login where we talk about all kinds of things, like the Earth's magnetic dynamo and all kinds of other stuff. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please do so, as there's going to be a lot of new things happening in 2020, and we are super excited about it. Here's the GOES X-ray flux, going back to solar data here, and for some reason I cannot scroll. There we go. GOES X-ray flux is totally flatlined over the past 3 days. 10.7 centimeter radial flux has actually dropped down to 71. As solar minimum conditions persist, the KP index is at 1. We're going to look at cosmic rays, and we did see an uptick here at the Apatity neutron monitor right around midnight on the 29th. And that prevented an overall downtrend in the past 30 days. As if the past 30 days would have ended down here, we would have seen a downtrend. But that brought us into a flat level over the past 30 days at the Apatity neutron monitor, and you can see it visually displayed there in the graph. Here's Barentsburg, and we don't really see a similar scenario there. It's pretty flat. Let's look at Athens next. The Athens neutron monitor. And there we see some anomalous data there, probably lost data in between the 28th and the 30th. And on a monthly basis, it's looking fairly flat at Athens. Let's go to Mexico City next. And there's the data from Mexico City. Pretty flat over the past 30 there, although we also saw a little uptick there right on the 30th. So yesterday. Next we'll look at Moscow, which usually shows a wild range, and they must be on vacation over there, as they're not returning data. And thanks everybody viewing in. Ah, yes, Sugas. It must be Sugas. Thanks for leaving comments, everybody viewing the live stream on Twitch. We appreciate that. Next, we're going to look at Oulu, Finland, as well as DOMC Antarctica. We'd show you DOMB Antarctica, but it hasn't been sending data. There's a scenario in Oulu, one of the world's favorite neutron monitors. And we actually see a small uptick here over the past 30 days at Oulu. So a minor uptick overall there, but a small uptick at Oulu. Not welcome data to really see. And were you aware that cosmic rays make the planet warmer at nighttime and colder in the daytime because of cloud nucleation? The greenhouse effect is very real when pertaining to water vapor. Anyway, here's DOMC Antarctica sending back spotty data at best, and we always include the network of cosmic ray stations link below the video. So please monitor them yourself. Don't take our word for it. Next, we're going to look at a blue screen until the real-time solar wind loads. And we are bound up like somebody on a cheese-only diet. Hey, browser, stop constipating. We are more frozen than Antarctica in the summertime. Here's the data from ACE. And we didn't really see any sort of a coronal hole wind stream materialize, not in any realistic way. Man, oh man, I don't know what is going on. Can I please have control of my effing browser back? That real-time solar wind page is glitchy as hell. And oh my gosh. No, that's okay. We'll wait. Holy shit, folks. Look at the junkware. Good God. Thank you, Brave Browser. And I guess we can't do full screen anymore. There we go. Congratulations, the page loaded. And you can see the solar wind density. Has kind of been all over the place. Here we see it got above 10 for a little bit there, according to the ACE spacecraft. And we've completely just ignored the Discover solar wind data because it is not loading and it's binding up my browser, so screw it. Anyway, we see over the past 24 hours, we see the solar wind speed has just been pretty much flat, barely being able to stay above 300 kilometers per second. Solar wind density very low, around 3 protons per cubic centimeter. We see a phi angle approaching 180 degrees there. Could be a magnetic connection with a coronal hole system, but I doubt it. Let's just move on to the GOES electron flux, which is completely cratered. Very, very low levels of electron flux, as we haven't seen a lot of solar wind. Here's the relativistic electrons, and also at quite low levels. We see big-time ionospheric anomalies here. Let's look at 6 hours of the ionosphere. There's a 6-hour video of it, and we see big-time charge-ups in the southern hemisphere at nighttime once again. And we've been monitoring this for over a month now. We see nighttime charge-ups of the ionosphere over the South Pacific. Places like Easter Island are seeing big-time ionospheric disparities. You can see a highly discharged and then highly charged ionosphere there. Between the equator and the 30-degree mark here in the South Pacific, south-southeast of Hawaii. Right about where my pointer is. And it's well documented. Enough said on that. GOES magnetometers are showing some pretty spiky ranges here. So a little bit of magnetic anomalies occurring. Let's look at the Gong 2 data. This is 1 hour and 9 minutes old. As the Earth is currently in the South Pole-oriented portion of the current sheet here, depicted in red. Not a lot going on there. It looks steady as she goes. Small bit of activity kicking off here. Nothing resembling any sort of sunspot activity. Again, we did see a coronal mass ejection on the far side of the sun, and if you were watching at the beginning of the video, that view was from stereo A, which is located here, behind the Earth in terms of orbital location, but ahead of the Earth in terms of viewing the sun. And that coronal mass ejection went out this way, opposite of the Earth, but it was big enough to be able to see it from the LASCO, which is at Lagrange point 1, I believe. And yeah, so that coronal mass ejection is all in this area, headed out towards stereo B and the opposite direction of the Earth. Nothing to worry about there. It won't have any effect on anything. And we're going to show you more data if the freaking page loads. There we go. And looking at the geospace magnetosphere movies here, we see what we typically do in a very weak solar wind. The main magnetohydrodynamic pressure showing up in the magnetotail region, around here where my pointer is. Otherwise, very steady, not a lot to cover regarding, let's just say, induced current. Next, we'll look at the geospace ground magnetic perturbations on the globe scale. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. We've got two magnetic fields in the north and a creepy magnetic field in the south creeping into the southern Indian Ocean. There's the data from the past 4 hours. Not a lot going on there. We are expecting a ramp up in the solar wind speed coming soon to a planet near you. Please leave a comment if you're viewing from a different plane of existence, planet, universe, time frame, spacecraft, galaxy, solar system, etc. Here's where stuff is in the solar system, as Earth is very lonely, all alone as it creeps up on Mars, on the opposite side of the solar system from all the rest of the planets. There's where things will be in 1 week. Here's where stuff is above my head. And if you've got a low horizon, go check out Mars before the sun rises. You should have a great view of it. Let's animate to show you the planetary pileup that will happen throughout the day. Mars will rise, and then Mercury, and then the sun, and then Jupiter, and then Saturn, and then Venus, and then the moon. So it's another cosmic pileup in the morning sky, folks. If you've got a low horizon and a telescope, check it out. We're going to scroll through the list of earthquakes. If I can get this site to function. There we go. And I don't know why it keeps doing that and why my tax dollars are paying for such crap. And it doesn't scroll. Okay. Well, we thank you, USGS. I don't know what you're paid for, but congratulations. Here's the last 24 of earthquakes, and we see lots of earthquakes on the western coast of the U.S., including Alaska. There's even one near Yellowstone. We'll get to it in a minute. And I don't know what the hell is wrong with these browser plugins. They are crap. Crap. Anyway, I'm going to scroll up the list here real slow like. Here's one 68 kilometers south of Toba, Japan. Please leave a comment if you're familiar with Lake Toba. That one's at 368 kilometers, an extreme depth earthquake, possibly portending a larger quake at the surface. Here's a deep quake near Indonesia, that one nearly 100 kilometers depth. Here's a quake in Bulgaria. Not every day you see one of those. There's a deep quake in southern Alaska. And I'm just scrolling up the list because we've changed our earthquake reporting to only 6+ magnitudes and deep quakes. There's a deep quake at Kamchatka, 4.5 magnitude, 109 kilometers depth. Looks like it could be the largest of the past 24 is this 5.0. northeast of New Zealand's North Island. Here's a deep quake near Fiji, 537 kilometers at a 4.6 magnitude. And let's talk about Kluchevskoy. Kluchevskoy is on the list of volcanoes, and we've noted its location by placing a heart on our windy.com map. Let's see if we can see the webcam. Nothing going on there. A little bit too dark at Kluchevskoy, although it is sending data. Anyway, let's zoom out and look at the pressure maps. I don't know if the internet is slow today, folks, or if it's the browser or what the deal is, but stuff is getting jacked up. Anyway, we're going to let that advance. That's a GFS model of where we anticipate pressure zones to be going into the end of the decade. There's where we expect pressure zones to be at New Year, at least. New Year Zulu time. And we'll let that advance another several hours here to show you 24 hours of anticipated pressure zones based on the GFS model. There's where things will be at 15 Zulu on New Year's Day. Please leave a comment if you have a New Year's Day feast planned. We're having pork and kraut. I bought a lovely pork roast yesterday. Let's talk about a human health story. How to improve your human health? Well, resist government tyranny in the year 2020. Since centralization is dead, please understand that resisting tyranny is obeying God. That is a quote from Thomas Jefferson. The government waged a renewed war on private property. Why am I talking about this? Because I'm involved in a protracted court case about some weeds, which are a hedgerow at the front of the property on which I rent. And that hedgerow's been there for about 40 years. And for some reason, the bottom-feeding, scum-sucking leech of a code enforcement officer known as Sandy Nicolo, and that's a guy, by the way. I'm not sure if his full name is Sandra Nicolo or not, but we get to go back to court in January to explain why the government has no right to tell somebody to cut down a hedgerow. So we're going to do all kinds of things that the local code enforcement officer is not going to like. And let's just say if we lose the case, we're going to be appealing it and appealing to all sorts of civil rights attorneys to tell the local municipality to shove their code enforcement. Anyway, the battle to protect our private property has become the final constitutional frontier, the last holdout against our freedoms being usurped. We no longer have any real property rights. That house you live in, the car you drive, the small or not so small acreage of land that has been passed down through your family or that you scrimped and saved to acquire, whatever money you manage to keep in your bank account after the government and its cronies have taken their first and second and third cut, none of it is safe from the government's greedy grasp. At no point do you have any real ownership in anything, as if you're paying property taxes, you are renting a property that you already own. So enjoy that. And this is the front line. Code enforcement, when somebody comes over and measures your grass and says that's too long, or those weeds have to be cut, or we don't like those species that are in your hedgerow and stuff like that, that is the front line, folks. That's the front line. Don't let them do it to you. We are not going to let them do it to us, or the trust that owns the property on which I reside. No more information about that, but check out the article. Nullify government tyranny in 2020. Harness the power of your discontent. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So put out your squeaks and tell the government to shove it if they try to do anything unconstitutional. There are lots of agencies out there to back you up while the government fronts. Volcano rundown includes Kluchevskoy, which is why we put it on the map, producing a 20,000-foot ash plume. Please do not fly your home-built ultralight aircraft over Kluchevskoy's caldera. Also, Mount Aso. Possible activity there. Please don't set up a campsite on the slopes of Mount Aso. Krakatoa Continuous emission, flight level 8,000 there. Dacono, flight level 7,000. Sangay exploding. Down there in Ecuador, flight level 21,000. Revenador, flight level 18,000. And Sabancaya also exploding. 25,000 foot ash plume there. Please do not attempt to do a handspring over Sabancaya's caldera. What are you doing for New Year's Eve? We'll be live streaming tonight. It's only 19 hours away, and the decade ends. So join us from 11:30 to 12:30 or so for our New Year's Eve broadcast. And if you enjoy the content on YouTube, please press like and subscribe. And perhaps you'll even see notifications. If you press the notification bell, who knows? Also, check out alternative social media. Now, BitChute is one of our repositories here for archiving all of our videos, just in case the YouTube channel suddenly gets deleted with absolutely no warning or explanation. It's a thing that happens to the best of us, and so we put our videos there, and we highly recommend that you watch them on BitChute, as we could really care less about how much traffic goes through YouTube, Google junk servers. Also, check out Minds.com, the future of social media, where you won't be censored, you won't be shadow banned, you won't be deplatformed. You can post whatever you want, including not safe for work content, so check us out there, as our numbers are tanking and utterly flatlined. Minds.com/smAsho. We do plan to interact there over the winter, and thanks again, everybody tuning in to the live stream. There are all your comments. And yeah, check out twitch.tv/smAsho if you want to see the videos as they're made. And by the way, the recordings on YouTube look very similarly. Here's where lightning's striking right now, and it looks pretty calm around the whole planet. Lightningmaps.org showing about no lightning at all. And here's the value-added service that we like to provide daily, the U.S. Doppler radar map. As that low-pressure system we documented yesterday over western Iowa is now over the western Great Lakes, bringing in some pretty heavy snow there, especially over places like Wisconsin. Please leave a comment if you're from Wisconsin and you like to go walleye fishing. Walleye, one of my favorite fish, and one of the tastiest fishes you could possibly catch. Some rain in Southern California, as well as some snow in Baja, Mexico. Baja, California. Check it out. Let's zoom in on that zone, actually. It is snowing awfully far south. Check it out, according to the Doppler radar. And there's a distinct possibility that if you're in that location, you will look up and see absolutely no precipitation at all. As if these things are not tuned just right. They're going to show you movement in the cloud column and not necessarily precipitation. Let's look at the water vapor map. As we see dry air dominating the eastern portion of the U.S., causing the jet stream to kind of rebound and stay mostly north, at least by the time you get to the Mississippi Valley. And we see some stagnant air and some stagnant thinking in southern Colorado. Let's take a look. If you're located in southern Colorado, please don't stagnate. And please don't have your head deep, deep within your ass where you're viewing the world through a periscope. Check out the convergence happening right there in southern Colorado. Should be an interesting day for clouds. In fact, let's do another value-added service and look at the shortwave radar animation, as we should see some oddities in that region. Things like lenticular clouds will form in those places. Let's take a look. Now, at nighttime when it's dark, we like to use the shortwave radar animation. The shortwave radiation, as you can't see clouds at nighttime, but they're picked up anyway. Anyway, that's where that convergence is happening. It's right over southern Utah, southern Colorado, northern Arizona, and northern New Mexico. It's a collision. It's an atmospheric collision. Please don't collide with not knowing what the hell you're talking about. Thanks to our patrons for supporting the channel, as the real source of funding for everything we do is from our patrons, as YouTube pays us precisely $0 for the content. And yes, they show you ads. Sorry about that, Smash team. They're not paying us for it. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for commenting. And stay tuned for more bonus features. We're doing a whole bonus section known as the That Is an Ass and That Is a Hole in the Ground. The pack animal-based vulgarity-free section where we talk about whatever we want. Let's talk about fast things. Russia's hypersonic missile, known as the 3M22 Zircon, which travels at nearly 2 miles per second. Were you aware? I don't really know what the big deal is, but apparently people are really freaked out about it. As if they'd be able to launch this anyplace and have it not picked up on every freaking radar array you could possibly imagine. Anyway, if you want to read the article, I guess we'll leave links to the Popular Mechanics article about it. Let's talk about some slow things. Joe Biden, looking kind of slow. Apparently when a guy jumped up and said, "We don't need another old white man running for president, time to have a minority candidate," to which Biden, who likely didn't hear the guy, said, "I agree with you, man. I agree. Nice talking with you." And then he said, you don't touch kids ever again. Don't touch kids, you pervert." He continued, to which Biden shook his head. "Look it up," the man told the gasping crowd. "Don't lie to them. Creepy Uncle Biden. Look it up." Now, I don't know if you've ever had your hair smelled by Joe Biden. If you have, please leave a comment. We've left links to this article also, entitled, "Don't Touch Kids, You Pervert. Biden Middle School Gymnasium Rally Meltdown into Chaos on Zero Hedge." How about some coffee extraction and other key brewing concepts? Now, Terrence Leonard, he's a guy who's pretty fast. As we talk about slow things and fast things, he's pretty fast with the information about brewing coffee and grinding coffee and roasting coffee and all that sort of stuff. So check out the article on coffee extraction. It talks about everything from infusion to French presses, yada, yada, yada. We've just changed our coffee techniques to an infusion coffee maker, drip infusion coffee maker type thing. So if you're not familiar on all of the sort of mathematical formulas associated with making coffee, read the article. We've left links to that below the video. Let's talk about something else fast. The fastest object ever built by mankind, as far as we know, the Parker Solar Probe. We've only just begun to talk about the data coming back from this object, and let's just say it's going to represent some serious breakthroughs in solar science, and it is an instrumental part in the rewriting of cosmology and indeed physics in general. It will be instrumental in helping us reach a unified theory of physics. So look for a lot of stuff, a lot of information and coverage about Parker Solar Probe coming in the year 2020. Also, if you haven't set up a Nextdoor.com account, check out Nextdoor.com. You can set up a free account, network your neighborhood. They'll even send out physical postcards to your people in case your neighbors don't have email. It'll send them a postcard. You know, you're unlikely to know all your neighbors' email addresses, right? Network your neighborhood. This is a major step in disaster preparedness. And by the way, for all you folks out there who don't understand what I do as work, I work in the supply chain. I'm involved with the testing of food, and I have great insights into the food supply, at least in Northeast North America. If you'd like to know more about it, just ask. And for all the channels out there talking about crop losses and food shortages and pork die-offs and all that sort of stuff, I have insight into it. If you'd like to hear all about it, just hit me up. Hit me up on Skype. smAsho mash. Now, yesterday we talked about Betelgeuse, or Betelgeuse, or whatever you'd like to call it. Let's just call it Alpha Orionis, the brightest star in the constellation Orion. Here's an image of it in radio frequency, and you notice how oblong it's shaped. Its radio emission is very oblong, and I'm not going to get into any conjecture about what's up with that. We did link to the Discover article here. Is Betelgeuse about to blow? And the answer is we don't really know. Although, It is a variable star, and it has moved into the dimmest state that we've seen in over a century, so perhaps read the article on Discover Magazine. If you don't know where Betelgeuse is, it's perpendicular to Orion's belt. If you draw a perpendicular line from this center star, the belt buckle, it'll lead you right to Orion's shoulder, or I guess it's his left hand or something like that. Anyway, this massive red supergiant would be about the size of Jupiter's orbit if it was located where the sun is, and it's really in the news lately. Let's read a quote about from the producer of Betelgeuse. I'd like to assure all sky and telescope readers that the film Betelgeuse, currently in video cassette release from Warner Brothers, does indeed take its title from the red giant star in Orion. In fact, where the name appears in writing in the film, it is rendered in its official form rather than its phonetic one. I should know. I wrote the original script. During the 4 years I spent with the project in Hollywood, I was repeatedly pleased and somewhat astonished by people who responded to the title Betelgeuse with the question, "Oh, you mean like the star?" Somebody even suggested that the sequel be named Sandalik-69202 after the precursor to Supernova 1987A. How about that? Astronomy, it's all tied into pop culture, folks. We've left links to this article about Alpha Orionis, otherwise known as Betelgeuse. However you want to pronounce it, I don't really care, but a lot of interesting information about the variable red supergiant in this article, and I don't want to really get into it as we want the video not to be too long, as interferometry was affected by it. It's one of the most famous stars in the sky, super easy to see, very red, and not as bright as it used to be. Now, this caused me to stumble onto Hubble's instruments, the Faint Object Camera, and let's talk about Nova Cygni 1992, another variable star. Nova Cygni 1992, otherwise known as V1974 Cygni. Now, this was discovered on February 19th, 1992 by Peter Collins. And let's just say it's a nova shell. And you can see very clearly the raw image here from the co-star. You can see this nova shell expanding outward from the center star. There's a zoomed in image of it. Nova Cygni 1992, another interesting variable. Now this one's located at a distance of around 10,000 light years, whereas Betelgeuse is only located about between 500 and 800 light years, let's just say, as the calculations for figuring out distances to stars is a little bit fraught, let's just say. Now I want to note spaceweather.com also. Spaceweather.com's got all kinds of information that would be relevant to our channel. And we've been talking about near-Earth asteroids and cometary influences on things. On this very day, we are expecting to see a close encounter with an asteroid. And I don't really ever consider this as a big deal, as there's plenty of asteroids we can't even see. And I would really love to be able to scroll. There we go. Thank you so much, Paige, for allowing me control of my own computer. Anyway, you can put together this lovely animation here. And let's just change the view a little bit. Okay, let's don't change the view a little bit. Wow. Okay, I was going to let that play for you, but I guess I won't. Anyway, if you want to study near-Earth objects, check out spaceweather.com. There's always a list, as well as hot flights and cosmic ray stuff and all kinds of other things. So let me just reverse that. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's where things will be right around New Year. Let's let that go back a little more. Anyway, here's the close encounter from that object. Nothing to worry about. It's at several lunar distances. Let's just continue on here. As frankly, I've lost train of thought because my freaking browser stops working. Hey, thanks again, patrons. The real source of funding for the channel. Please consider becoming a patron if you haven't already done so. And thanks to our latest patron. Your support is highly appreciated and necessary for us to continue the content. So again, check out smashamash.org. Set yourself up a login on the forum. Just scroll down. There's a link to it right there. Lots of changes coming in 2020, most of which are undivulged. Please press like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done so. We are absolutely unworried about our lack of subscriptions increasing. Completely unworried about it. And if you want to see the videos live, as they're made, check them out on twitch.tv/smashamash. Thanks, Smash Team, once again, and welcome to the bonus features. We're going to be looking at the local yellow dwarf here, 48 hours worth of data in the 171 angstroms view. Again, my personal favorite. There you can see that active region, former sunspot 2753, moving into the setting phase there, south of the equator. And we are out. We will be back before the year 2020. And as the year 2020 kicks off, we will be here streaming live. So join us there. Stare at the sun. Don't drink. And if you do, don't drive. And by the way, it'll never be now again. So may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.